there, my name is Patricia Meredith, and I am the author of the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries. Today, I wanted to take a little time out and talk to you about why libraries are so important to authors. I wanted to encourage you to support your local library because they are amazing. And if you're worried that they're not going to support the author, that by checking out from the library you get this guilty feeling of, oh, but then I'm not supporting my favorite author, it feels like it's kind of, backdoor getting access to books. No, I'm going to settle your heart right now. Please check out books from your library in all three formats: print, ebook, audiobook. My books are available in our local library through all of those formats, and they can be available in your library as well if you just request them. So let me back up and start with how I know anything about libraries. My first job out of high school was at a library. I worked in the Buena Vista, Colorado library, and actually it wasn't even out of high school, it was during high school. I was able to do some work while I was taking my last classes in preparation for going to college. And it was there that I started learning about the cataloging and all the backstage stuff of libraries. Now at that time, the only way to get a book was in paperback or hardback. So that's how old I am. But nowadays you can get all three formats very easily through libraries. And especially since the pandemic, libraries have gone above and beyond in trying to make sure that books are easily accessible to everybody. No matter who you are or where you're from, you can get access to your favorite books through the library. So not only did I work at a library in high school when I graduated and went to college here at Whitworth University in Spokane, Washington. I graduated with a creative writing degree. I did work study through the library there. And so I got to spend all my days amongst those beautiful books in the stacks of the Whitworth Library. And there is just something about physical books. The smell, the feel. It's one of those things that it's hard to describe why it's so wonderful. However, that being said, something that since the pandemic has become even more prevalent is libraries have gone above and beyond in making sure that books are available to everyone, including in ebook and audiobook format. So one of the reasons that I decided that I wanted to publish Cupboards All Bared and Butcher Baker Candlestick Taker and all my future books in the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries, they will always be available in all three formats on release day. Cupboards All Bared just released, and so now it is available in all three formats, including through your library. If your library doesn't have a copy yet, it's very easy to request a copy. Just go to your library's website, look it up, or walk in and talk to a librarian and they'll tell you how to request it. Now, ebooks and audiobooks, they are very easy to just download from wherever you are. And honestly, over the pandemic, that was the main way that I read books, was through audiobooks, because then I didn't have to go into the library, and a lot of the time the library wasn't open. So this way I was still able to continue my voracious reading habit without losing a step during the pandemic. Since then, they are still available that way. Here's what's so wonderful about the library. People happen across new books in the library every day. You might go into the stacks and you're looking for Anne of Green Gables. Well, right next to Ellen Montgomery, you might find my book, depending on if it's shelved with historical fiction or if it's shelved with mystery. And so one of the ways that you can support an author is just by requesting the book and making sure it's on the shelf or available as ebook or audiobook. Most libraries will not carry a book unless it has been requested by one of their patrons. So as a patron of a library, I'm relying on you, dear reader. And I want to say thank you to those people who have already done this, who've gone into their library and requested it, because there have been many people who have then let me know that they found this book, my book, on the shelf of their local library, and they just had to check it out, and they loved it. So thank you. They might not have found my book if it hadn't been for you. So there are three basic ways that a library supports authors. The first is one copy, one user. So the author pays for each copy purchased by the library. And this goes for print, ebook, or audiobook, depending on how the library works. And what that means is that the library is actually charged a little bit more for the book because they know that it counts for multiple reads. Also, something to keep in mind with print books is that a library is going to order more copies of the book depending on how often it is checked out. Because books, if they are read a lot, then they get worn, especially if they're a paperback book, then the library has to get more copies in order to meet all the demand. So checking out the book repeatedly is also going to help your author, your favorite author. So you might think, oh, well, I've already read that book, but I want to support the author. You know what? Just check it out again because it'll count in the library system and it'll show as being a popular book that people are checking out. So that's another way you can help your local authors. So the second way is cost per checkout. The author is paid for each checkout, and this is mostly for ebook and audiobook. So depending on how they set up their system with like Overdrive or Hoopla, each system works differently. And so the author gets paid every time the book is checked out on one of those systems, the ebook or the audiobook. So if just by checking it out, you are sending a couple cents to your author. So if you want to support an author, just check it out. Depending on how your library has set itself up on Overdrive or Hoopla, you can sometimes get a book and then you have to put it on hold and you have to wait for it. So even doing that, if you put it on hold, that also tells the library, ooh, maybe we should get more copies so that way less people have to wait for copies. When Butcher Baker first came out, I was so honored and so pleased to see that there were enough people who requested the ebook and the audiobook that our local library ended up getting multiple copies to be available through Overdrive to check out because there were too many people waiting per copy. So there you go. It works. It's an awesome system. And then donations. Of course, the author is paid when someone buys the book and donates it to the library, right? Now, that's a little bit around the back end. I wouldn't suggest that you go out and buy a copy, and then say, hey, can I donate this to the library? Unless you talk to your library first. Specifically ask them, would you take a donated copy of this book? Because usually a library would rather get it through their own system, so that way they can make sure it's a good looking copy and they can put in all the information into their system. So speaking of libraries, I also wanted to mention Little Libraries. That also supports authors. If you have an extra copy, and like with the donation way, if you have an extra copy of Butcher Baker Candlestick Taker or Cupboards All Bared, or you just want to support me and buy an extra copy and leave it in a little local library, take a picture of it, post it on social media, and let somebody else happen across it, just like they would at the large national libraries. So there's a lot of ways that libraries support authors. I strongly recommend that you support your local library. They're amazing. These institutions have not been around that long. So I actually read a book last year by Marie Benedict called Carnegie's Maid that I strongly recommend if you're interested in a historical fiction look at the beginning of libraries. It is an incredible book that takes a deep dive into why did Carnegie start the library system that spread across the entire U.S. It is thanks to him and something that happened in his life. And like all brilliantly written historical fiction, Marie Benedict finds those holes in history where you can plug something in and come up with a reason for why did this happen. And she does a beautiful job of building this world where libraries don't exist and why do they need to come into existence. So definitely support your local library. Read Marie Benedict's book. She is my favorite historical fiction author right now. Her research is top notch, and everything that she has written has just pulled me in and not let go, and I keep thinking about it and talking about it even a year later. So that's the way a good book should be. So remember to support your local library. Go in today and figure out if you can get a copy of Butcher Baker Candlestick Taker or Cupboards All Bared, Book 2 in the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries through your local library. Remember, it is available in all 3 formats. And if you need the ISBNs, sometimes the library would like the ISBN or a link to where this book exists so that they can find it. Please check out my website. Under the link that says Books, there's the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries link, and right there you'll find the ISBNs and everything that you need to request Butcher Baker Candlestick Taker and Cupboards All Bared through your library. Thank you in advance, and thank you for supporting your libraries.